Hello everyone and welcome! So, the time has finally come to look into another one of those highly requested champions. Today we are going to talk about one of the best swordsmen in Ionia. But before we do, we have to go back to the beginning of the story and talk about someone else. It all started in Noxus. The entire city was preparing for invasion into Ionia. Among all those ruthless warriors, there was one soldier that didn't quite fit in, at least from what one would think. That soldier was Riven. When she was still a kid, she showed early potential as a warrior, but because no one would make swords for kids, she had to learn how to use long swords often taller than herself. Because of her young age, she wasn't the strongest soldier around, but the Noxian High Command still recognized her lack of doubt and fear. Soon, the sorcerers of Noxus forged a black stone rune sword specifically for Riven. Soon after that, the invasion began. It all started as a war, but it soon turned into extermination. All that Riven saw around were armies of Noxian soldiers and Zonite war machines. This wasn't the glorious battle that she was training for, but she still had to carry on her orders. As the invasion continued, it became clear that the Ionian society would be eliminated without a chance. But the Ionian armies still fought back. One day, Riven and her squad got surrounded by Ionian forces. Riven called for support, but what she received instead was a barrage of biochemical explosives launched by Singed. Riven watched around as both Ionian and Noxian soldiers died together. Although she was able to escape the bombardment herself, she could not erase the memory of what she just saw. Because both Noxus and Ionia thought she was dead, she saw the opportunity to start a new life. She shattered her sword and she wandered into Ionia, looking for a way to truly fight for the honor she believes in. The other half of this story begins in an Ionian sword school. Here, a young boy called Yasuo became the first in a generation to master the legendary wind technique. Many believed that he was destined to become a great hero. However, it all changed when Noxus invaded. Yasuo had an older wise brother called Yone. He watched Yasuo train his techniques from the very beginning. Over time, he noticed that as Yasuo grew older and his skills increased, so did his ego. Soon, Yasuo started ignoring his master's lessons and he became impatient. Yone feared that Yasuo took the wrong path, and so he had to reason with him. But simply warning Yasuo would not do him any good. Instead, Yone gave Yasuo a maple seed. It really was just an ordinary seed, but with time, one may notice the beauty it holds inside. Yasuo accepted Yone's gift, and the next day, he volunteered as the master's guard. Unfortunately, as foolish as Yasuo was, he believed that his blade alone could make the difference on the battlefield. And so, he left his post to fight back the armies of Noxus. But when he returned, the master was dead. Disgraced, Yasuo willingly turned himself in, prepared to pay for his failure with his life. He was shocked when he heard that everyone thinks that he himself was the one who killed the master. At that moment, he realized that the assassin would go unpunished if he did not act, and so he was forced to draw his blade against the school and fight his way free. Yasuo spent the next several years wandering the land, seeking any clue that might lead him to the assassin. While on his journey, 3 former allies hunted him down and fought him one by one. The first was a swordsman known for his unmatched power. When they were young, Yasuo saw him cleave a tree in half with a single strike, but he could not cleave the wind. The second was a warrior of speed and grace. Agile and cunning, she outran the clever foxes in the woods, but she could not outrun the wind. The third was a man of compassion, the man who taught Yasuo the meaning of patience when he was just a prideful child. His guide, his friend, his brother, Yone. Bound by a common code of honor, the two warriors bowed and drew their swords. Silently, they circled one another under the moonlight. When they finally charged, Yone was no match for Yasuo. With a single flash of steel, he cut his brother down. Yasuo dropped his weapon and rushed to Yone's side. Overcome with emotion, he demanded to know how his own kin could think he was guilty. Yone replied, "The elder was killed by a wind technique. Who else could it be?" Understanding swept over Yasuo as he suddenly realized why he had been accused. He professed his innocence once more and begged his brother's forgiveness. Tears streamed down Yasuo's face as his brother passed in his arms. Yasuo then buried Yone under the rising sun. His brother's revelation had given Yasuo a new purpose. He now had the clue that would lead him to the true killer. With one last look at Yone's grave, he set out with the wind at his back. And sadly, this is where this glorious story ends. Most people like Yasuo for his gameplay and visuals, but after listening to his story, you too have to say that he is truly an amazing and interesting character. But there still are some things unanswered. The most important one being, where did Riven learn the wind technique? At the moment, we simply don't know, and I really hope that one day we will. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to give it a like, and if you want, feel free to put your favorite champion down in the comment section, and maybe I'll do his lore next. Thank you all so much for watching my videos and supporting me, you know I mean it. So as always, thank you, come again. Again, thank you all for being here till the end of this video. Honestly, Yasuo is such a great character. Maybe it's because I always loved these kinds of characters that everyone think are bad, but actually all the bad things that they have done, they've done it for a good cause, but no one realizes that. And I really love that when that happens in a story. I know I say this every time, but I really wonder what Riot will do with these characters. I still wonder who will be the next one to get a bigger lore update. I thought it was going to be Shen and Zed, but you know how that ended up. I'm hoping that Tarek will do some great job at least.